is natto from Japan, while technically it originated here in China. In some regions here, soybeans are fermented twice before consumption, and the first fermentation is called natto in Japan. Regardless, the first fermentation is crucial, and I've experimented with different ways of making natto. So let's explore these methods today. Here, I have these organic soybeans. Compared to regular beans, their size is much smaller, which is preferred. In a large bowl, measure 1 cup of soybeans, then add 3 cups of water. Let them soak overnight on the counter for 6 to 24 hours, depending on your kitchen temperature. When soaked, the beans will swell in size, and when squeezed, they should feel soft. After soaking, drain the water and set the beans aside. Now, I'm using a lid of bamboo steamer. Lay a cloth on the bottom, then place beans on it. By the way, pick out any beans that have gone rogue. These won't ferment well. Cover the beans with corners of cloth, then place it on the steamer over boiling water and steam the beans for at least 3 hours. Feel free to use a pressure cooker, which will be much faster. Remember to add water to the pot occasionally in case it dries out. Now, let's talk about wild starters or natto. Traditionally, farmers have used dried rice straw, which naturally contains Bacillus subtilis, the bacteria crucial for natural fermentation. Fortunately, I managed to buy glutinous rice straws from Guizhou online. They're quite long, so I'm going to make a mold out of them. First, locate the center point of straws, then slightly offset toward root. Use tough ropes like hemp rope to tie them tightly. Then grab a few straws and fold them over. Repeat the process along the tie until all the straws are folded. Tie the other end, then trim off the side for a clean look. Shape it to resemble bolts and the mold is complete. Now boil a pot of water and pasteurize straw bowl to eliminate any unnecessary bacteria and germs. Steam it for 10 minutes. If your pot is small, blanch both sides. You can scoop hot water over the top for a couple of minutes, then loosely cover with a lid for 5 minutes. Repeat this process for both sides, then let it drain and cool down. Bacillus subtilis also exists on plants like herbs, vegetables, and fruits. So here, I'm going to test these 5 kinds. I prefer to use only the stems, so trim off the leaves. This is 1 sprig parsley, 2/3 sprig rosemary, 1 root of cilantro, 2 roots of chives, and 1/3 of a kale leaf, keeping only the tougher stem. Feel free to experiment with other herbs and vegetables. Regarding the molds, here I have 6 of this kind of small ceramic mugs, each about 100 ml. Right before using, wash them with soapy water. I'd dry them in the oven and then let them cool down. To check the doneness of the beans, squeeze a bean between your fingers. If they can be crushed like this, it's done. Take the beans out of the steamer. Now I'm going to poach the stems in simmering water for about 30 seconds. Then fish them out and let them cool down a bit. When the beans drop to 55 to 60 degrees Celsius, scoop them into the containers. The rice straw bowl can hold about 4 heaping tablespoons. Cover it with a clean wet cloth and set it aside. The ceramic mugs can hold about 3 tablespoons each. Just place each stem on top of the beans. I'll leave this one as is as control. Also cover it with a clean wet cloth. Fermentation natto is quite similar to yogurt in terms of temperature, and anywhere between 38 to 45 degrees Celsius works, with the best range of 40 to 42. I usually set a timer at 24 hours, but it doesn't necessarily need that long. Also, to lock in the moisture, don't forget to cover the beans with a lid or a plastic wrap. This is after 20 hours, by the way. I usually start checking the doneness from this point. This point, the rice straw bowl has developed a thin white coat, which is a sign of mature natto. They have also developed significant stringy strands that don't break easily and can be rolled up around chopsticks. Without doubt, this one is well fermented. Let it cool down to room temperature, then cover it with plastic wrap and further mature in the refrigerator. Now, for the herbs and vegetables, usually 21 hours is a sweet spot for all batches, but sometimes you have to adjust accordingly, like with this batch. The kale and cilantro are both ready, while the rest aren't there yet, so I'm going to take these 2 out and put the remaining 4 back in the proofing machine for another hour. Then throw them in the refrigerator overnight to further mature. The next day, let's check in. Surprisingly, the plain batch is a success. It's got some stringy strands, though not as sturdy. But you know, homemade results can vary each time, even with the same natto starter. Sometimes worse, sometimes better. The rosemary is looking robust, and the parsley is even more vibrant. The chive exceeded my expectations, but hold on until you see the cilantro. It stands out from all the previous batches. And let me tell you, the kale reigns supreme and is just not terrible. But I have to mention, the first 4 might have lost a bit more moisture during fermentation than I would have preferred. However, the conclusion is the same as my previous tests, and I specifically want to point out this test, which included 5 more herbs. All of them were not blanched and used as they were. After 21 hours, kale, thyme, and basil were ready, and they appeared a little over-fermented after 2 hours. Overall, this side is stronger than this side. As mentioned, these 3 are the strongest. Mint and rosemary are the runner-up, parsley is a third, and it may be similar to cilantro, chive, and lemongrass. Interestingly, pandan is worse, but at the end of the day, feel free to use any of these for your home fermentation, even without any starter. And here's why I don't like tender leaves or stems. They tend to stain. Anyway, let's go back to the rice straw boat. Honestly, I don't even have to worry about mixing the hard, and the strands have really gotten nice and stringy. Now, let's compare the kale with the rice straw. I gotta say, kale has become a go-to for making natto at home because it's consistent and easy to get. They say you should stir natto 100 times before dinging to enhance flavor. But here's the catch. After stirring that much, the strands tend to break. Now, with the rice straw, it might be a bit hard to spot on screen, but it definitely outperforms kale. However, when considering cost, availability, process, and results, kale takes a crown. And taste-wise, I don't even notice the difference between the two. After maturing in the fridge, natto will lose its sulfur smell, and one of the common Japanese ways of eating it is to add it to the freshly cooked rice, along with some light soy sauce and mustard. Mix well, and it's a nutritious meal. However, in China, natto undergoes a second fermentation. To it, add some minced garlic ginger along with some radish cubes, then a 2 to 3% salt, and optionally some chili flakes to taste. Mix all of them well, then transfer them to a jar and let them ferment at room temperature for 3 to 7 days. I'm partial to the flavor of this purple radish, but here's the thing. This purple hue tends to rub off on the beans, making them look a bit off-putting. So if appearance matters to you, stick with a classic earthy white daikon. Either way, it pairs well perfectly with rice. Natto can also be tossed into stews, soups, stir-fries, and salads. Here's a creative recipe for you. To 1 serving cooked pasta, add a garlic paste and minced ginger, 1 poached minced tangerine peel, some chives, 3 tablespoons of natto, 1 tablespoon of rosemary oil, and ½ teaspoon of rosemary salt. Mix well. Then add some blanched bok choy or other green vegetables of your choice. Add a touch more rosemary salt if needed. Give it a good mix and enjoy your meal. If you want to learn how to make these flavor seasonings, go back to my previous video, Christmas Basket. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, share if you find it helpful.